The cold did not just touch your skin that night. It attacked you. It crawled under collars and into bones. It made the whole city feel like it was holding its breath. The wind screamed down the streets like it was angry at anyone still outside, whipping trash across the sidewalk and rattling signs above closed shops. Even the streetlights looked tired, flickering like they were thinking about giving up. A sleek black car moved through it all like it didn't belong to the same world. The paint was glossy. The windows were tinted. The heater inside was strong enough to make the air feel soft. The kind of comfort money buys without even trying. In the back seat sat Damien Cross, staring out the city as if it were something he owned. He didn't talk much. He didn't need to. His presence was heavy, like a suit nobody else could wear. Damien was the kind of millionaire people whisper about, the kind who walked into a room and made everyone else sit up straighter. He had the penthouse, the private elevator, the watch that cost more than someone's rent for a year. He had everything people think they want, and yet his face was always calm, always guarded, like his heart had a lock on it. He checked his phone. One missed call, then another. Business, always business. Deals, meetings, numbers. A life built on control. A life where nothing was supposed to surprise him. Outside, the car rolled past a corner cafe. The windows were fogged. People inside laughed with warm drinks in their hands. It looked like safety, like a little island of comfort in a sea of winter. Damien barely noticed it at first. His eyes were half-focused, the way eyes get when you've trained yourself not to feel too much. He was thinking about tomorrow, about a contract, about a launch, about money. Then he saw her. At first, it was just a shape in the dark, a figure under a street lamp that kept flickering, like it couldn't decide whether to show her or hide her. She stood near a wall, shoulders hunched. Her arms were wrapped around her body, so tight it looked like she was trying to hold herself together. Her coat was thin, too thin for a night like this. Her shoes looked wet. Her hair was pulled back in a messy way, like she hadn't had a mirror in a long time. Her whole body shook, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, endless way. The kind of shaking that says the cold has been winning for hours. People walked right past her. A man with a scarf stepped around her like she was a trash can. A couple laughed and moved faster, pretending they didn't see. A woman glanced once, then looked away, like eye contact would make it a problem. The city kept moving. The woman stayed there, alone on the flicker, like a forgotten page. Damien's first reaction wasn't sadness. It wasn't kindness. It was irritation. A small frown. The kind rich people get when something messy appears too close to their clean world. He had seen homeless folks before. He had donated to charities. He had written checks at fancy events while cameras flashed. He had done his part. That's what he told himself. But something about this woman made him sit up. It wasn't just the shaking. It wasn't a thin coat. It wasn't even the way she looked like she was fighting to stay standing. It was her face. The angle of it. The shape of her eyes when she lifted her head for a second. Almost like she felt someone watching. For a heartbeat, the street lamp held steady and Damien saw more. His chest tightened. Not from cold. From a memory. His eyes narrowed. He leaned forward, pressing close to the window as if glass could help him understand what he was seeing. His heart beat once hard. Then again, like it was warning him. "Driver," Damien said, his voice low. "Stop." The driver glanced up through the mirror. "Sir." Stopped the car. The car slowed, tires crunching over dirty snow. It came to a smooth halt near the curb. The warmth inside suddenly felt strange, like it didn't belong anymore. Damien stared out again. The woman was still there, trembling. The street lamp flickered again, and the light hit her cheekbones, the curve of her lips, the tired line under her eye. Damien's breath turned shallow. No, it can't be. He pushed the door open before the driver could ask another question. Cold air rushed in like a slap. It hit Damien's face. It stung his nose. It made his eyes water. It didn't care who he was. In that moment, the winter treated him like everyone else. His expensive shoes touched the sidewalk, then stepped into slushy snow that darkened the leather instantly. His suit jacket wasn't made for this kind of weather. His hands weren't used to this kind of bite. He took a few steps forward, slow, almost unsure. People stared for a second, noticing the rich man stepping out of the luxury car, then kept walking. In this city, even a millionaire didn't hold attention for long. Damien kept his eyes on her. The closer he got, the more his mind fought him. It tried to label her as someone else, a stranger, a mistake, a lookalike, anything but the truth, because the truth carried weight. The truth carried guilt. The truth carried a past he had locked away behind money and silence. The woman's head was down, chin tucked into her chest, her breath coming out in weak little clouds. Her lips were pale. Her hands looked raw, like the cold had chewed on them. She shifted her feet, like she was trying to wake up her toes. Then, as Damien's shadow fell near her, she lifted her head. Her eyes met his. For a second, neither of them moved. The world around them kept going. Cars passed. A bus hissed at a stop. Someone laughed far away. But inside that moment, everything went quiet. The air felt heavier. The street lamp flickered again and held, like it wanted to witness this. Damien stopped walking. His mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. His eyes widened, not in anger, but in shock, so deep it made him look younger, vulnerable, like all that money couldn't protect him from what stood in front of him. "No," he whispered. The woman stared at him like she didn't believe it either. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. They weren't the eyes of someone begging. They were the eyes of someone who had been through too much to beg anymore. Her face was thinner than he remembered. Her cheeks were hollow. But the look was the same. Nia. The name hit Damien like a punch to the chest. Nia was not supposed to be here. Not like this. Not on this street. Not under this broken light. Nia was supposed to be a memory. A story he didn't tell. A chapter he closed when his life became shiny and new. A woman he once held in his arms when he was nobody. When he didn't have a driver. When he didn't have a black car. When he didn't have control. His throat tightened. His hands dropped to his sides, stiff. He looked at her coat, her shaking, her bare struggle, and something inside him cracked, just a little. Not enough to fix him. Not enough to change him yet, but enough to let pain seep through. Nia blinked slowly, like her eyes were trying to focus, like she was making sure this wasn't a cruel trick from the cold. Her lips parted. Her breath came out in a thin cloud. And still, she didn't speak. Damien swallowed hard. He tried to find words that sounded right, but nothing sounded right. What do you say to the woman you left behind when you find her freezing in the street? What do you say when you are standing in warm wealth, and she is standing in cold survival? He took one step closer, then another, slowly, like he was approaching something fragile, dangerous, like a memory that could bite. "Nia," he said again, softer this time. It's me." Her eyes didn't soften. They didn't light up. They didn't show relief. If anything, they darkened, like his voice reminded her of something she worked hard to forget. Her jaw tightened, and even while shivering, she stood a little straighter. Pride did that. Pride and pain. Damien's heart pounded louder now. He glanced at the car behind him. The warmth inside, the driver watching confused. The distance between that car and this street felt like a lifetime, like two different worlds. He looked back at Nia. His chest rose and fell faster. He could feel the cold biting through his clothes, but it was nothing compared to the burning shame rising in his gut, because he knew this wasn't random. This wasn't just a sad scene on a winter night. This was the past walking up to him with empty hands and a frozen body, asking a question without speaking. Damien's lips trembled. He tried to steady his voice, but it came out broken anyway. What are you doing out here?" Nia held his gaze. The streetlight flickered again, and for a second her eyes looked wet, not from tears, but from the wind. Then the light steadied, and the stare she gave him was cold too, colder than the air. Damien felt it, the judgment, the history, the unfinished story. And as the wind screamed down the street again, Damien Cross realized something that shook him deeper than the winter ever could. Fate didn't bring people back gently. Fate brought them back when you thought you were safe. Fate brought them back when you thought you had moved on. And right there, under that flickering street lamp, staring at the woman he abandoned, Damien understood one terrifying truth. This night was about to change everything, and he had no idea how bad the truth was going to hurt. Damien's voice came out rough, like the cold had grabbed it. "Nia, what happened to you?" He didn't say it like a man asking a stranger on the street. He said it like a man staring at a ghost he thought he buried. His eyes stayed locked on her face, searching for a reason that would make this less real. But there was no soft explanation waiting. Only the wind, only the shaking, only the truth standing right in front of him. Nia tried to shift her weight, like she wanted to step away from him, like distance could protect her. But her knees wobbled the second she moved. Her body was tired. Hungry tired. Cold tired. The kind of tired that makes your bones feel heavier than they should. Still, she forced herself upright, chin lifting. Pride did the work her strength couldn't. Her eyes were tired too, but they weren't weak. They were sharp in a way that made Damien flinch, like she was seeing through his coat, through his money, through his perfect life, straight into the part of him he tried to hide. "I could ask you the same," she said, voice flat, not loud, not dramatic, just bitter, like the taste of old pain that never left her mouth. Damien's jaw tightened. The air between them felt tight too. He wanted to speak, to explain, to throw out some excuse that sounded clean. But the past didn't come clean. It came messy. It came heavy. It came with faces and moments and promises you didn't keep. He stared at her, and memories rushed him so fast he almost forgot where he was. He wasn't in the snow anymore. He was back in that tiny apartment with the peeling paint. Back when the heat barely worked. Back when he counted coins on the kitchen table and pretended he wasn't scared. Nia had been there then. Always there. She used to come home late with her feet swollen, apron still tied, smelling like fried food and soap. She would drop her bag by the door and smile anyway, like the world couldn't break her. She worked double shifts at a diner when he was chasing dreams that didn't pay rent. She paid bills while he pitched ideas to people who laughed in his face. She would hand him grocery bags and say, "Eat. You can't build anything on an empty stomach." And he would look at her like she was the strongest person alive. Back then, Damien didn't have a driver. Back then, Damien didn't have power. He had hunger. He had pride. And he had Nia. But then the first deal came. Then the first investor finally said yes. Then the first time someone important shook his hand and called him sir. Damien told himself he was doing it for both of them. He told himself the long nights and the cold showers and the missed dates were temporary. He told himself, just a little longer. Nia believed him. She clapped when he won. She held him when he lost. She never asked to be praised. She just wanted to be seen. Then success came with bright lights and new people. It came with fancy rooms where Nia didn't fit. Not because she wasn't good enough, but because Damien started caring about what others thought. The more money he made, the more he started looking at her like she was a reminder of the old him, the poor him, the needy him, the him he didn't want anyone to know existed. And that is the cruelest kind of betrayal. When someone you love starts acting like your loyalty is embarrassing. Standing under that street lamp now. Damien felt those memories crawl up his throat. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His eyes dropped to her hands. They were red and raw. Her nails were broken. Her fingers shook. His chest tightened like a fist had closed around his heart. He pulled off his coat without thinking. It was a heavy, expensive coat, the kind that felt like a blanket. He stepped closer, holding out like an apology he couldn't say. "Here," he murmured, "take this." Nia looked at the coat. Then she looked back at him. Something twisted in her face. Not gratitude, not relief, anger, hurt, a kind of pain that had been sitting inside her for years, waiting for the right moment to speak. She didn't reach for it. She didn't even flinch toward it. She just let her arms stay wrapped around herself as if she refused to let him cover what he caused. "I don't need your pity," she snapped. The words sliced through the air sharper than the wind. Damien blinked, caught off guard. Part of him expected her to be thankful. That's what rich people expect. They think offering something fixes the damage. They think a coat or a few bills can erase years. Damien held the coat out anyway, his hand stiff in the freezing air. "It's not pity," he insisted, but his voice sounded unsure, like he didn't fully believe himself. Nia's eyes stayed on his. Then what is it? She asked quietly. Guilt? A performance? Something to make you feel better before you go back to your warm life. Damien swallowed. The words hit because they were true enough to hurt. He looked around, suddenly aware of the world again. People were staring now. A few slowed down, curious. A rich man in a suit standing in the snow. A black woman shivering under a broken light. The scene looked like a headline. It looked like charity. It looked like shame. Damien lowered his hand slightly, coat still hanging there between them like a question. Nia, I didn't know, he started, but the second he said it, he realized how weak it sounded. I didn't know never brings anyone back. I didn't know doesn't pay the cost. I didn't know is what people say when they want forgiveness without responsibility. Nia's lips pressed together. She looked away for a moment, like she was fighting something inside her. Tears, maybe, or rage, or the memory of a younger version of herself who used to love him. Her voice dropped when she spoke again, lower, colder. Of course you didn't, she said. You stopped looking. Damien's shoulders tensed. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say he had reasons, that he was busy, that he was building, that life moved fast. But none of it mattered in front of her shaking body. None of it sounded noble anymore. It just sounded selfish. He tried again, softer. Then what do you need? The question slipped out before he could polish it. It wasn't a billionaire-style offer. It was a desperate one. Like he was trying to find the one thing he could do that would stop the moment from destroying him. Nia stared at him. The street lamp buzzed above them. A car horn sounded far away. The city kept breathing around them, but the space between them held its own silence. Heavy, thick, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Finally, Nia's voice cracked, just slightly, like a door opening on a locked room. I needed you years ago, she whispered. Damien's throat tightened so hard it hurt. He felt the words land in him and sink deep, not because they were dramatic, but because they were simple, honest, final. Nia didn't say, I need money. She didn't say, I need a rescue. She said the thing that could never be fixed now, the thing that made time itself feel cruel. Years ago, back when she still had hope, back when she was still waiting. Damien's eyes flicked to her again, and he saw the humiliation she was carrying, not just from the cold, from being seen like this, from being seen by him like this. He saw how her shoulders pulled in like she wanted to disappear. He saw the way her gaze dropped when someone walking by stared too long. And he saw the anger behind it, the anger of someone who once gave everything and got left behind. I'm not leaving you out here, Damien said, voice firmer now. Not because he wanted to sound strong, but because fear had entered him. Fear that if he turned away, he would become the worst version of himself forever. He stepped closer again, pushing the coat forward. Please, just take it. Nia hesitated. Her pride fought her. You could see it in her jaw, in her eyes. She looked like she'd rather freeze and accept anything from him, because taking that coat felt like admitting she needed him. And Nia had learned the hard way what happens when you need someone who chooses not to show up. Damien took a slow breath. Come with me, he said. Just somewhere warm. We can talk. Or we don't have to talk. But I'm not going to stand here and watch you. His voice broke on the last word. Watch you suffer. Watch you fall. Watch you become proof of what I did. Nia's gaze darted to the car. The black car. The driver. The warmth behind tinted glass. It looked like a different planet. It looked like a world that never had room for her. The humiliation flashed again across her face. She didn't want to step into his world as a broken person. She didn't want to be carried like a problem. But the streets were unforgiving. The wind didn't care about pride. The cold didn't respect dignity. Another shiver ran through her, and her teeth clicked once, loud and quiet. Damien saw it, and his stomach turned. This was not a debate anymore. This was survival. Nia finally reached out, not for the coat at first, but for balance. Her hand brushed the sleeve of Damien's suit as she steadied herself. The contact was brief, but it shook them both. Damien felt it like electricity. Nia felt it like a memory. She pulled her hand back quickly, like she regretted it. Damien draped the coat around her shoulders anyway, gentle but firm. Nia didn't thank him. She didn't smile. She just stood there, breathing, eyes forward, letting the warmth sink in while her face stayed hard. Damien guided her toward the car. People watched as they passed. Some whispered. Some stared. Damien felt every stare like a spotlight, and for the first time, he didn't like attention, because this attention wasn't about success. It was about consequences. The car door opened. Heat spilled out. Nia paused at the edge of it, as if she was standing between two lives. The life she lived now, cold and ignored, and the life Damien built, bright and protected. She looked at him once more, and her eyes asked a question she didn't speak. Why now? Why when it's too late? Damien didn't have an answer. As the car pulled away, the city lights blurred across the window like gold streaks. Damien sat beside her, silent, hands clasped tightly, staring straight ahead. Nia sat stiff, wrapped in his coat, but not in his comfort. The distance between them was only a few inches, yet it felt like a whole lifetime. And as they drove through the glowing city, Damien realized something that made his stomach drop. He had spent years chasing wealth, like it was a cure for everything. But sitting next to the woman who once saved him, now broken by a world he escaped, he felt the truth settle in like ice. Money could buy warmth, but it could not buy back time. And he had no idea what Nia was about to reveal next. The diner smelled like warm bread and old coffee, the kind of place that didn't care who you were as long as you paid and kept your voice down. A bell had jingled when Damien and Nia walked in, and for a moment every head turned. Not because they recognized him, not because the world knew his name, but because they saw the contrast. The rich man with the perfect posture, the black woman wrapped in his coat, shoulders tight, eyes guarded, like she was walking into a room that had never felt safe for her. Then the moment passed. The cook kept flipping eggs. A waitress kept wiping a table. The diner went back to its quiet rhythm, like it had learned long ago not to get involved in other people's pain. Damien chose a booth in the corner, away from the windows, away from the street, away from anyone who might stare too long. He slid in first, then waited until Nia sat across from him. The vinyl seat squeaked under her weight. She looked around once, taking in the soft yellow lights, the cracked menus, the warmth that sat in the air like a blanket. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't clean in a perfect way, but it was warm. And right now, warm felt like mercy. A server came over, cheerful in a tired way. "You two okay?" she asked, already reaching for a notepad. Damien opened his mouth, then stopped, glancing at Nia like he didn't want to speak over her. Nia didn't look at the server. She didn't want attention. She didn't want questions. She just wanted to be small, invisible. Damien cleared his throat. "2 soups, whatever's hot, and tea," he said. Then, after a pause, "and bread." The server nodded and walked off without another word. Damien watched her go, then looked back at Nia, under the diner light. He could see more clearly now, the way her cheeks had hollowed, the way her lips were dry, the faint bruise color under her eyes. The cold had left its mark, but it wasn't just the cold. It was life. Life had been pressing on her for a long time. Nia kept her hands in her lap. She didn't relax. She didn't lean back. She sat like someone ready to stand up and walk out at any second, like she didn't trust warmth to last, like she'd learned that comfort always came with a price. Damien tried to breathe slowly. He tried to think of the right words, but his mind was loud with fear. Fear of what she would say. Fear of what he would learn. Fear that this moment was not just awkward, it was dangerous. Not to his body, to his soul, to the story he told himself about who he was. The soup arrived in steaming bowls, placed between them with a soft clink. Nia stared at hers for a second like she didn't believe it was real. Then she picked up the spoon, hands still trembling. Damien watched her lift the first spoonful to her mouth, watched her swallow, watched her blink like she was fighting emotion. A simple thing like soup should not feel like this. But when you've been cold and hungry, even soup can feel like a reminder of how far you've fallen. Damien didn't touch his bowl. He couldn't. His appetite had disappeared the moment he saw her under that street lamp. He sat there with his hands clasped on the table, fingers tight, eyes stuck on her face like he was studying a wound he caused. How did it get this bad? He asked softly. Not loud enough for the diner to hear, just enough for her. His voice carried something new in it, not authority, not confidence, something smaller, something scared. Nia paused mid-spoon. Her eyes lifted slowly, meeting his, and Damien felt it right away. The change. Her gaze darkened, like a cloud moving over the sun, like she had been waiting for him to say that exact question. Because it proved something. You really don't know? She asked. Damien frowned, confused, offended, and ashamed all at once. I lost track, he said, and even as the words came out, he hated them. Lost track. Like she was a bill he forgot to pay. Like she was a street he forgot to drive down. Nia let out a short laugh with no joy in it. It was a sound that said, Of course you don't know. She leaned forward slightly, elbows close to her body, her voice lowered, quiet like thunder right before a storm. When you left, she said, slow and clear, I wasn't just heartbroken. Damien's breath slowed. Something about the way she said it made his stomach tighten. He wanted to interrupt, to say he didn't leave like that, to say it wasn't supposed to be cruel, but he didn't speak. The silence felt like a punishment, and he deserved it. Nia's eyes stayed on him, unblinking. Then she said the words. I was pregnant. The diner didn't change. The cook didn't stop. The waitress didn't freeze. Life went on around them. But Damien's world stopped moving. He stared at her like he didn't understand English anymore, like his brain had been turned off. His face drained of color, the kind of pale that comes from shock, not cold. His lips parted. No sound came out at first. Then finally, one broken word. What? Nia's hand tightened around the spoon. Her knuckles went white. She looked down for a moment, blinking fast, as if her eyes were trying to hold back years. I didn't tell you right away, she said. I wanted to. I did. But you were already changing. You were already looking past me. And then one day you were just gone. Damien swallowed, so hard it hurt. He remembered leaving. He remembered the fight. The way he said he needed space. The way he said he had to focus. The way he promised he'd call. The way he never did. At the time, it felt like survival. Now it felt like a crime. I tried to find you, Nia continued, voice shaking now but still controlled. I called. The number was disconnected. I emailed. No response. I went to your old office. They said you moved. And then I saw you online, smiling with new people, wearing suits, standing in rooms I couldn't even walk into. Damien's hands gripped the edge of the table. The vinyl under his fingers squeaked slightly. His jaw clenched. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to say he didn't know. But she was painting the picture too clearly. New phone, new friends, new world. He had built a wall, so high she couldn't even throw her voice over it. Nia's eyes finally filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall freely. She blinked them back hard, like tears were another form of weakness she couldn't afford. I was working, she said. Still, I was tired all the time. My boss started getting on me. I couldn't keep up. I was throwing up in the bathroom. I was dizzy, and I had nobody to lean on. Damien's chest tightened. He felt like he couldn't get enough air. The soup steam rose between them like smoke from a fire that happened years ago, but the heat still burned. I lost everything, Nia whispered. The words came out smaller now, like she was talking to herself. I lost my job. I couldn't pay the rent. I lost my apartment. She stopped there, and the pause was heavy. The kind of pause that makes you brace for the worst, even if you already know it's coming. And then, her voice cracked, not from cold, from pain. I lost a baby. The spoon dropped into the bowl with a soft clink. Nia's shoulders trembled once. Damien stared at her, frozen, eyes wide, lips pressed together like he was trying not to break. The diner noise faded in his ears. All he could hear was that sentence echoing again and again. I lost a baby. I lost a baby. I lost a baby. Silence swallowed the booth. A deep, fixed silence that didn't care about wealth or status. Damien's millionaire confidence meant nothing here. The words had stripped him down. He didn't look powerful anymore. He looked like a man who had just been shown the real price of his ambition. Nia wiped at her cheek quickly, embarrassed by the tear that finally escaped. Her hand moved fast, like she was angry at herself for letting him see that. Her chin lifted again, pride returning like armor. "I didn't tell you for sympathy," she said, voice sharper now, like she needed to take control before she fell apart. "I told you because you deserve to know what your ambition costs." Damien's eyes burned. His throat tightened. His hands were still gripping the table. But now it wasn't just tension. It was guilt trying to keep him from collapsing. He opened his mouth again, but his voice wouldn't come. What could he say? Sorry? Sorry doesn't bring back a child. Sorry doesn't erase nights alone. Sorry doesn't rewind a life. He looked at Nia across that small table and realized something terrifying. For the first time in years, he wasn't a man with answers. He wasn't a man in control. He wasn't a man money could rescue. He was just Damien, a man staring at the ghost of who he used to be, a man realizing that the woman who once held him up had been falling for years, and he never even turned around to look. And as Nia sat there, eyes hard, hands trembling again around that warm bowl, Damien felt the truth settle in his chest like ice. This wasn't just a reunion. This was a reckoning. And the worst part was, he could feel there was still more she hadn't said yet. The city looked different after that diner. The lights were still bright. The streets were still busy. The buildings still reached the sky like they always had. But Damien Cross did not feel the same inside his own world anymore. The warmth of the restaurant hadn't warmed his soul. It had only made the truth clearer. And now, as he drove through the night with Nia sitting beside him, wrapped in his coat, but not in his comfort, the silence in the car was louder than any engine. Nia stared out the window, her face turned toward the passing streets. Her eyes didn't chase the lights. They didn't wonder at the wealth around them. They looked tired, distant, like she was somewhere else entirely. Damien kept glancing at her, wanting to speak, wanting to fix something, but knowing he could not fix years with words. He didn't take her to his penthouse. He didn't take her to the world of glass walls and private elevators, because suddenly that world felt wrong. Too cold in a different way. Instead, Damien drove to a small private apartment he owned but never used. A quiet place. Simple. Warm. Human. The kind of space that didn't scream money. The kind of space that could breathe. When they arrived, Damien got out first and opened her door without thinking. Nia stepped out slowly, still stiff, still guarded, as if the ground might disappear beneath her. Damien led her inside. The heat wrapped around them. The silence inside the apartment was soft, not heavy like before. A lamp glowed in the corner. Clean blankets sat folded on a couch. The place smelled like nothing, like new beginnings, like emptiness waiting to be filled. Nia stood near the doorway, not moving deeper. Damien turned to face her, his hands trembling slightly now that the cold was gone and only guilt remained. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said quietly. The words hung in the air, honest and raw. Damien expected her to argue, expected her to soften, but Nia didn't. She looked out the window instead, watching snow drift down like ash. "No," she said. Simple, sharp, final. "You don't." The honesty stung like a slap. Damien felt it in his chest, but he didn't run from it. For once in his life, he didn't hide behind pride. He didn't hide behind money. He just stood there, taking the truth the way a man should when he has earned it. That night, Damien slept on the floor with a blanket. He gave Nia the bedroom, not because it made him a hero, but because it was the smallest thing he could do after years of doing nothing. And in the darkness, Damien stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the heater, realizing something painful. This was not a moment. This was the beginning of payment. The next morning, Damien woke up early. He heard movement from the bedroom, soft footsteps, the sound of someone trying not to be noticed. Nia came out slowly, still wrapped in his coat, eyes cautious like a stray cat that had been hurt too many times. Damien stood in the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. He held one out. Nia hesitated, then took it without a word. No forgiveness, just survival. Days passed. Damien did something he had never done before. He stopped chasing image. He stopped chasing applause. He stopped chasing the shiny world that told him he was important. He started chasing redemption, not in loud ways, in quiet ways. He made calls, not to investors, but to doctors. He arranged medical care for Nia, not as a grand gesture, but as responsibility. He didn't announce it. He didn't post it. He didn't turn it into a performance. He simply did it. Nia didn't thank him. She didn't smile, but she showed up, and that alone was something. Damien sat in waiting rooms beside her, surrounded by ordinary people. No one recognized him there. No one cared about his money. In those chairs, he was just another man holding paperwork, watching clock, feeling helpless. He realized how small wealth becomes in places like that, how useless status is when someone is hurting. One afternoon, after an appointment, Nia finally spoke more than a sentence. "You don't have to do all this," she said quietly. Damien looked at her. His eyes were tired now, too. "Yes," he answered. "I do." Nia's jaw tightened. "Why now?" The question hit hard. Damien didn't pretend not to understand. He swallowed. "Because I can't undo what I did," he said. "But I can't keep being the man who walks away either." Nia stared at him for a long time, searching his face like she was trying to find the lie. But Damien wasn't lying. For the first time, he wasn't trying to be impressive. He was trying to be real. He helped her rebuild her life, but not with flashy gifts, not with expensive clothes or dramatic checks. He helped her find stability, a safe place, a path forward. He asked her what she wanted, instead of deciding for her. And the most important thing, he listened, truly listened, not like a rich man listening out of guilt, like a human being listening out of respect. Nia talked slowly at first. She didn't pour her heart out. She didn't rush. Pain like hers didn't spill easily. It had been held in too long. But little by little, she spoke. About the nights she cried alone. About the job she lost. About the friends who disappeared. About how the world treated her like she was nothing once she had no safety net. Damien sat with his hands clasped, eyes lowered, absorbing every word like a punishment he deserved. One evening, weeks later, snow fell again outside the apartment window. The city looked softer under white, quiet, almost peaceful. Damien stood near the window, staring out at the streets where he had found her. Nia sat on the couch, holding tea, watching him. Damien's voice broke the silence. "I spent years thinking success was money," he said, slow and heavy. "I thought if I could just climb high enough, nothing could touch me." He turned toward her, his eyes shining. "But success without love," he paused, swallowing hard, "is just loneliness in a gold box." Nia didn't respond right away. Her face remained guarded, but something shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just a crack in the wall. The beginning of peace. Damien stepped closer, not invading, just present. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said. "I don't even know if I can forgive myself." Nia looked down at her hands. Her voice was quiet when she finally spoke. "I don't know what I feel," she admitted. "I just know I survived without you." Damien nodded, tears slipping down before he could stop them. "I see that now," he whispered. "And I hate that you had to." That winter changed Damien. Not because he suddenly became a perfect man, but because he finally saw. He began using his wealth differently. He funded shelters quietly, without his name on plaques. He created job programs for women who had been overlooked. He sat with people society ignored, listening to stories he once walked past. He honored struggles he had once dismissed. Because seeing Nia freezing in the cold was more than a shock. It was a mirror. It showed him the man he had become, and the man he needed to stop being. One night, months later, Damien and Nia stood outside the same diner, where the truth had shattered him. Snow fell gently. The street lamp still flickered. Nia pulled her coat tighter. Damien glanced at her, then at the street. "So many people out here," he murmured. "So many stories we never notice." Nia's eyes stayed forward. "Until it becomes personal," she said. Damien nodded slowly. "Until it becomes real." They stood in silence, not as lovers, not as strangers, but as two people connected by pain, by history, by lessons neither asked for. And Damien finally understood something the world never teaches rich men. The world can make you rich, But only humility can make you human. Sometimes the greatest lesson isn't found at the top of a skyscraper. It's found in the freezing streets. When life forces you to face the people you left behind. Because dignity is not something money gives. Respect is not something wealth earns. And redemption only begins when you stop looking down at others and finally learn to see them